also reported to the U.S. Coast Guard sector in Long Beach, which ultimately declined the search request. This 1992 event was the second in Los Angeles in 3 years. On the dark, foggy morning of February 7th, 1989, scuba divers, boat sonar systems, and people on the shore witness a long, dark, unidentified craft dive out of the Pacific. For about 90 seconds, the USO rests just above the surface before emitting about a dozen smaller, fast-moving objects. 60 seconds later, the craft dives back underwater. Its last reported sonar heading was south toward the Santa Catalina Channel before it disappeared.
And it involved dozens of objects which were seen off the coast of Marina del Rey. On occasion, some of these craft would emit smaller craft, about 20 feet in diameter. And these were seen moving underneath the surface of the ocean, and they were coming in and out of the water.
As the 1947 incident at Roswell sparked worldwide curiosity about flying saucers, these events near Los Angeles have sparked a current wave of research into the capabilities and threats of so-called USOs.
The oceans of the world covering, 70% of the planet, they hide a lot of history and a lot of mystery.
There's a very good reason for a whole society of creatures, sentient creatures, advanced creatures living underwater because nobody goes there.
It's fascinating to think of the underwater UFOs because they know a lot about this planet that you and I don't know.
Unique to the USO phenomenon is the reported ability of these craft to multiply and break apart. One such astounding case has become known as the Golfo Nuevo event. On February 8, 1960, the Argentinian Navy is on alert as they track two unidentified submarine-like objects in its waters, thought to be American subs. Then, according to reports, the underwater objects are seen on sonar to break apart and fly out of the water.
Sonar contact, 173, 438 yards. Bridge contact, sonar contact, 173, 438 yards.
Two gigantic submarines sighted by the Argentinian Navy in 1960 inexplicably multiplied into 6 other submarine objects. The Argentinians were never able to catch them or destroy them because the objects simply disappeared.
The case even caught the attention of the Soviet Union's most senior officials.
Nikita Khrushchev, who was the leader of the Soviet Union at the time, was so much intrigued by the whole story that he sent his diplomatic attaché in Buenos Aires to find out what's been going on.
While some researchers contend that these reported cases might be nothing more than military submarines firing torpedoes, others argue that submarines were not capable of firing 6 or more objects in 1960. Late USO researcher Ivan T. Sanderson's 1970 book, Invisible Residents, was the first to analyze the USO phenomenon. He reports on another remarkable example of USO behavior. In March 1963, the U.S. Navy submarine exercise is progressing as planned 100 miles off Puerto Rico. Suddenly, one Navy sub abruptly breaks from its assigned route after picking up an unidentified object traveling at speeds in excess of 150 knots. The submarines are astonished by the depth at which the unidentified craft is moving, 20,000 feet underwater.
It gave the acoustic signature of a single propeller type of motion through the water, and it was tracked at depths down to 20,000 feet, whereas a typical crush depth for a submarine would be 7,000 feet. So this thing, whatever it was exceeding the technical capabilities of submarines at that time and even today.
The vessel is tracked for almost 4 days by the entire carrier group. The object would reportedly propel away at impossible speeds and then stop and rest, allowing for continued tracking by the Navy. Reports about this event were sent back to Sinclair Fleet Headquarters in Norfolk, Virginia. However, an official determination into what was seen on sonar that afternoon was never made. But according to reports, the Navy lost track of the craft after midnight on the 4th day. It was never picked up on sonar again.
Nobody advanced a theory as to how something could move that fast.
We have reports of USOs going into and out of the water, but we don't have any of the technical data. Flying saucers that are above the ground, people see them. But what's underwater, the Navy sees them. And the Navy isn't talking about what it's flying.
Inflating an immense balloon aboard the USS Norton Sound, the Navy prepares for further study of the elusive cosmic rays somewhere in the Pacific. That's the news. A secondary consideration clears up the mystery of the so-called flying saucers. For it is these monsters, which rise 19 miles and attain diameters of 100 feet, that have been mistaken for the apparitions called flying saucers. At great altitudes, they tell us, these elongated enormities flatten out like plates. Mystery ended.
But reports from around the world continue. Another extraordinary case is reported in the international press beginning on November 11th, 1972. A fast-moving submarine-like object is picked up on sonar in the Sogne Fjord off the west coast of Norway by the Norwegian Navy, which hunts it for 2 weeks. A fleet of surface ships and specially equipped sub-hunter helicopters are assembled to find the object. On November 20th, 1972, the USO is seen visually for the first time. It was described as being a massive, silent, cigar-shaped object. A Navy ship promptly fires its guns and torpedoes at the craft.
Some ship actually saw it on the surface and fired at it, but it dived, and then they started dropping depth charges. Although all the articles treat this as a submarine, the fact of the matter is nobody was able to identify it as a submarine.
After tracking the object for almost 2 weeks, the Navy devises and executes a plan to blockade the fjord and trap the USO.
They tried to seal off this fjord so nothing could get in or out. Nevertheless, after 14 or 15 days, this thing disappeared. So that may mean that this object, whatever it was tracked by the Navy, was not a submarine at all, but an unidentified submerged object.
Coming up, did Christopher Columbus and his crew witness USOs flying into and out of the Atlantic on October 11th, 1492?
One of the earlier cases comes all the way back from the day before Columbus Day in 1492, before there was a Columbus Day. And it happened on Santa Maria.
October 11th, 1492, 10 p.m. A calm, clear night. Christopher Columbus and his crew move slowly across one of the deepest ravines of the Atlantic and through the Bermuda Triangle. Below them is almost 4 miles of water. Suddenly, unearthly lights are seen flashing across the bottom of the ocean.
One of the earlier cases comes all the way back from the day before Columbus Day in 1492, before there was a Columbus Day. And it happened on Santa Maria. This person's name was Gutierrez. And Gutierrez was on the Santa Maria with Christopher Columbus and noticed an object rising out of the water, a disc-shaped object.
A great flash of light with a level of brilliance unlike anything known at the time suddenly erupts from the sea to the sky, startling Columbus and his crew of 120 aboard the 3-ship Spanish fleet. In less than 5 hours, they would discover the New World.
Christopher Columbus maintained a log in the ship. It describes what could be interpreted as a UFO event. They saw, in the description given in the logbook, the flickering of a wax candle going up and down in the night. It couldn't have been a campfire on ground because it was beyond the horizon.
This possible USO incident is more than just legend and lore. For the first time ever, original text from Columbus's log has been made available to the History Channel by archivists at Fordham University, custodian of a rare handwritten copy of the journal. The October 11th, 1492 sighting was not an isolated occurrence. Over the 2-month journey, Columbus's log exhibits a consistent pattern of cryptically reported peculiar incidents, including unexplained sightings and unusual events in outer space. The following is from an entry on September 10th, 1492. the halfway point of the voyage.
The crew of the Nina stated they had seen a garaho and a water wagtail, but these birds never go farther than 25 leagues from the land.
From an entry September 11th, 1492.
Saw a large fragment of the mast of a vessel, apparently of 120 tons, but could not pick it up.
Entries on both September 17th and September 20th indicate that stars or other unidentified lights in the sky are seen to move.
The cause was that the star moved from its place, but the needles remained stationary.
And from the infamous entry of October 11th,
the admiral, at 10 o'clock that evening, standing on the quarterdeck, saw a light. Calling to Pero Gutierrez, he told him he saw a light and bid him look that way, which he did and saw it. The admiral again perceived it once or twice, appearing like the light of a wax candle, moving up and down.
Is it possible that these strange events, recorded during the most fabled nautical journey in history, were the result of otherworldly vessels tracking Columbus's fleet? Some suggest, however, that any interpretations or rationalizations that might be gleaned from Columbus's log are not the whole truth.
If Christopher Columbus saw a strange thing come out of the water, fly around his ship, and then take off, would he have told anybody about it? They'd have locked him up in the brig instantly. The guy's crazy, because things can't do that.
One of the earliest USO reports comes from 329 BC. After witnessing what he described as shining shield-like objects flying into and out of the Jaxartes River in India, Alexander the Great was so convinced that he witnessed otherworldly vessels, he spent the final 6 years of his life searching for evidence of these objects in a diving bell, believed to be the world's first submarine. Some conclude, however, that Alexander's underwater adventures had a greater goal, finding and conquering the one kingdom that had eluded him, Atlantis.
Well, Atlantis first enters literary history in the philosophical dialogues of Plato. These are the Timaeus and the Critias.
The gods, bothered by the attitude of the Atlanteans, decided to destroy Atlantis. In one day and one night, they destroyed it with a cataclysm, and it sank.
To this day, researchers continue to speculate about Atlantis as a hub of USO activity.
The legend of Atlantis definitely is based on knowledge, probably lost by today, of some secret underwater civilization.
Atlantis's supposed location in the Mediterranean would have provided USOs a convenient position from which to monitor human civilizations and their shipping routes to and from Asia Minor, Rome, and Athens.
The Mediterranean was the cradle of ancient civilization. The Phoenician traders traveled back and forth between the Middle East and Greece across the Mediterranean. If there were a culture of either aliens or original inhabitants of planet Earth who wanted to seed the planet, to seed humanity with myth, the Mediterranean is a natural base for them to set up an underwater facility.
Well, I don't know if Plato was talking about unidentified submerged objects when he came up with Atlantis, but I suppose there are people who, number one, assume that Atlantis is real, number two, that it's somewhere in the Atlantic, number three, that it's buried under thousands of feet of water.
The ancient Athenians, however, were not the first to record stories of unidentified objects in the oceans. Experts believe the ancient Egyptians may have even recorded sightings in their hieroglyphic drawings.
In ancient Egypt, in the temple at the city of Abydos, somebody made an inscription, a depiction of a submarine. There was another depiction of an object that looks like a helicopter. Who made it? How did the ancient Egyptians know about it? We have no idea.
One of the earliest European cases is a series of reported English sightings in the 11th century.
One of the oldest cases I have on the site goes back to the year 1067. It has to do with this people in the countryside seeing something flaming in the sky that came down to Earth lit up the countryside, and then went up again, and then into the sea.
Carl Feint has been researching USO phenomenon for almost a decade. His internet site, waterufo.net, has an archive of over 900 current and historic USO reports. According to Feint, one of the 20th century's first cases was reported in detail in the Philadelphia Inquirer on August 1st, 1904. A British cargo ship, the Mohican, en route to Philadelphia was, according to the paper, enshrouded in a strange metallic vapor which glowed like phosphorus.
I have found out recently that that case is a heck of a lot more detailed and scary than originally shown. The captain and the crew confirmed that an object came across the ocean, a cloud, approached the ship, and it was glowing. Not a meteor, going straight down, just coming across the sea. As it came towards the ship, the captain was trying to distract the crew to get them to do something different, you know, and get over the fear. They couldn't move anything while the cloud was around the ship.
The Inquirer further reports that during the event, the ship's compass revolved with the speed of an electric motor, and the sailors were unable to raise pieces of steel from the magnetized decks. The story goes on to quote the Mohican's Captain Urquhart, who confirms that the account is vouched for by every man of the crew. But perhaps the most astounding USO-related event, according to experts, is a Canadian case from 1967.
The Shag Harbor case is the most important USO case in documentation. The UFO moved underwater to a different point. A second UFO joined it.
Coming up, we visit Shag Harbor, Nova Scotia on the 38th anniversary of this crucial USO incident.
On October the 4th, 1967. That's where the lights was, right behind me on the water.
Years ago today, October 4th, 1967, approximately 20 after 11 in the evening, something happened in Shag Harbor that became quite memorable in later years.
The night of October 4th, 67 has become known as the night of the UFOs among many UFO researchers. The Shag Harbor incident has become the best known aspect of that night.
Chris Stiles and Don Ledger have spent the past decade researching the 1967 Shag Harbor USO incident. The case, widely reported throughout Canada at the time, had been largely forgotten in subsequent years. Their 2001 book, Dark Object, reopened the case, shedding new light on the many reported USO events of that night and the weeks following.
The reason that the Shag Harbor incident came to the forefront and kind of eclipsed the importance of the other sightings from the night of the UFOs is simply the fact that it's the one case where something came down out of the sky and crashed into the water. You know, it made a noise, it made a flash. It's also unique in the sense that nobody reported a UFO. Several calls came in very quickly to the nearby Royal Canadian Mounted Police Detachment, and those reports said simply that people had seen lights, or perhaps an aircraft had crashed into the waters of what they called the Sound. The interest and the concern was totally for the possibility of survivors. Nobody reported a UFO.
I'm not surprised now that I had seen something in the sky that night, because all over Nova Scotia, the night of the Shag Harbor incidents, there were many UFO reports.
Just up around the bend, we'll be coming into Shag Harbor, and the site crowd gathered and watched whatever it was that happened here 38 years ago today.
Each year, Ledger and Stiles make an anniversary trip to Shag Harbor to meet with Norm Smith, one of only 3 surviving witnesses.
See the island out there? That's where it all took place, right off there. That's where we've seen the light in the water.
Hey, sir. How you been?
Good.
Wow.
How are you?
Same old. That's good.
The 3 of us stood on the lawn watching the lights. Eventually it started going, it looked like it was moving to us, and then on a downward slope towards the ground. We thought it was a plane crash. So we jumped in the vehicle in my old man's car and my uncle's, and we went up to this spot right here by the Irish moss plant. And when we got here, there was probably 10, 12 other people. We watched the lights on the water for a period of 2 or 3 minutes, and then the lights disappeared.
What happens next is indisputable. Before midnight on Wednesday, October 4th, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police officers who witnessed the event from the shoreline searched the water on boats until 3 a.m. with the help of several local fishermen, including Norm Smith. At noon on Friday, October 6th, Canadian Navy divers from Halifax arrive and search the area through the weekend.
Eventually, 7 divers were dispatched from the Fleet Diving Unit in Halifax and taken down to Shag Harbor. The search effort continued through all the daylight hours of Saturday and Sunday, and by Monday morning that search was officially terminated in Ottawa. And they just simply state unidentified flying object and circle it and underline it.
According to government reports, the object travels from the south to the north along the Nova Scotia shoreline. At one point, it stops and hovers. Then at approximately 11:20 p.m., it enters the water at a 45-degree angle, 300 yards offshore.
Directly behind me where we seen the lights, right at Bomb Portage Island, directly behind me.
When the Royal Canadian Mounted Police officers that had responded to the call arrived at the shoreline of Old Highway number 3, the UFO was still moving upon the surface of the water. The object also appeared to be leaving a trail of dense yellow foam.
In the weeks following October 4th, the story becomes even more mysterious. The case is front-page news across Canada, and as Ledger and Stiles report in their book, in the days just prior to the Canadian military's official classification of this incident as a UFO event, a second craft enters the waters of Nova Scotia to rendezvous with the first craft.
Then this thing resumed its headway back down this way at about 4,400 miles an hour and came down through northern New Brunswick, straight down over the Bay of Fundy, across the southwestern tip of Nova Scotia, across this way, and went down in the water here.
Authorities already knew the object was no longer there, that it had moved under the water and had come to rest on the seabed. It sat there for almost a week, right to the hour. And after that time, it began moving under the water to the Gulf of Maine with the aid of a second craft that was helping repair it. And the two of them broke the surface of the water and flew away out over the Gulf of Maine. Interestingly enough, there is the second report of a sighting, 1 week in Shag Harbor, of 2 sets of lights, one orange, one yellow, leaving the water and flying away.
This case continues to inspire debate and continued research into the events of October 4th, 1967.
There are a large amount of primary documents that support interpreting Shag Harbor as a crash scenario of a UFO. And in one of the paragraphs it actually says a preliminary investigation has been conducted, and it has been discovered that this object is not the result of a flare, float, downed aircraft, or in fact any known object.
I didn't know then, back 30-odd years ago, I didn't know whether it was a UFO or what it was. But nobody will ever make me believe that there was nothing there, because it was.
Coming up, seen for the first time, video evidence of what might possibly be a USO emerging from the waters of Laguna Cartagena in Puerto Rico.
And they are coming towards Laguna Cartagena.
And later, a University of California scientist reveals that supersonic speed by deep-sea UFOs is not only scientifically possible, but likely. A region with perhaps the longest legacy of USO activity is the area around Puerto Rico. As the mysterious southern point of the Bermuda Triangle, the island has been at the center of USO debate for decades.
Puerto Rico is a hot spot for underwater UFO activity, and it seems to match the pattern of other cases.
Puerto Rico is considered in all of the Americas to be the place where there's the greatest number of USO sightings.
Members of the Puerto Rican-based ufology group, Project Argus, agreed to lead a tour of some of the island's more notable USO-related areas. Laguna Cartagena is an isolated lake near the southwestern corner of the island. It has become linked to much of Puerto Rico's reported USO activity.
I have been conducting investigations for years in Laguna Cartagena, where there's also a lot of secrecy about USOs.
Laguna Cartagena since 1930 has been a place where hundreds of cases were reported of flying objects coming and going from the area.
October 8, 2002, approximately 9 p.m., Puerto Rican police officer and Project Argus member Carlos Torres witnesses a red glowing USO fly out of the waters of Laguna Cartagena at an incredible speed. Then it stops and hovers just above the water.
I was a witness of an object suspended over Laguna Cartagena. The military got involved because they were also witnesses. The object flew away and then back from Monte Indio. And it stopped and hovered over Laguna Cartagena.
After hovering for several minutes over the area, the object was seen to crash back into the lake. Another Argus member, Giuseppe Quiñones, believes he captured the same object on videotape in 2004.
I took a video on November 20th, 2004, in the immediate area of Laguna Cartagena.
Seen for the first time, possible video evidence of a USO near this enigmatic lake. The brightly lit craft-like object was seen emerging from the water. Here, it hovers for almost 1 minute before flying away.
In the mid-1990s, several attempts to disprove the USO activities were made, despite hundreds of witnesses that said they saw lights going in and coming out of the water. They have been seen all over Puerto Rico. Specifically, the most mentioned places are Laguna Cartagena and Route 303.
The region of Lajas, through which Route 303 runs, has been another source of significant USO and UFO reports, including a possible 1997 crash on Monte Indio that left behind a scorched earth impact zone and many unanswered questions.
In May 5, 1997, a UFO crashed there, burned many lands on the top of the mountains, and there was federals that night, and they obtained something that we don't know, a UFO.
After this 1997 incident, local government officials began to take USO and UFO reports more seriously. As a direct result, the mayor of Lajas, Puerto Rico, recently designated the roadway through the heart of Puerto Rico's UFO country as UFO Route 303. But for now, other USO-related events around the island are far more pressing for experts. In the hills around Lajas, a mysterious government aerostat, a tethered balloon-borne radar, is frequently launched up to 3 miles in the air, ostensibly to monitor air traffic and weather. However, USO researchers believe the balloon's real function is actually covert, to observe and record UFO and USO activity.
There was a government document in the legislature where a secret investigation was conducted. Not public, but secret, about the USO events in the waters. But the document states that they do not pose any danger to humanity.
The volume of USO reports from around this small island have prompted many to speculate that the deep waters directly below the southern tip of the Bermuda Triangle, just offshore, conceal more than USOs. Experts and researchers from around the world believe they possibly obscure a major USO base as well.
It is suspected that there's a base between La Paguera in an area near Cabo Rojo. It is also supposedly very deep and cavernous, and it goes as far as Laguna Cartagena.
The motive for them coming in and out of the water is so that they are able to enter in one area and come out in a different area in the underwater basins.
Could all of these events simply be tied to local mysticism, or perhaps the cultural sway of the Bermuda Triangle?
In Puerto Rican culture, the majority of the people here, even though they talk about the Chupacabra and the Bermuda Triangle, they do not believe in any of this.
Or is there possibly something more?
It's a reality. The USOs in Puerto Rico are real. There are hundreds of testimonies and witnesses. It's all real.
I think that the UFO phenomenon is real. Here in Puerto Rico, there have been hundreds of cases. That is a reality.
Coming up, possible photographic evidence of a USO exiting the waters of Gulf Breeze, Florida. It is believed that unidentified submerged objects are able to move through our oceans and seas in ways that defy all principles of modern physics. Experts are confounded by the ability of these vessels to reportedly travel at extreme depths, pass through ice with impunity, and traverse water at supersonic speed.
These kinds of craft, ostensibly, can travel underneath the water because they are impervious to water, just like they're impervious to gamma rays, cosmic rays, impervious to anything that gets in the way of their traveling in space.
According to all information, we are dealing with a very advanced technology.
They circle ships and next thing you know, dive into the water. It's not a barrier to them. They just go from one medium to another.
In late 1969, while conducting their regular Operation Deep Freeze ice-breaking exercises near Antarctica, U.S. Navy sailors aboard the USS Calcaterra reportedly witnessed an unidentified submerged object with some extraordinary capabilities.
Ivan Sanderson in Argosy magazine, where he talks about an event somewhere in the Arctic when an object came up through the ice and took off. Really sort of burrowed its way through.
A large submarine-shaped object, at least 100 feet long, is seen bursting out of the frozen ocean through several yards of solid ice at an incredible speed. But this case, however, is only one of many similar incidents reported by navies around the world.
I know of one case that occurred near Leningrad. In the winter of 1976. A USO broke down through the ice, maneuvered underwater, and then again broke back out through the ice.
They do melt ice. Now, if you had a meteor, the dynamics of the thing would break the ice into chunks and scatter them all over the place. With the UFO, it's a clean hole.
USO witnesses have also reported seeing waterspouts beneath USOs as they exit the water, including Ed Walters, a resident of Gulf Breeze, Florida, who snapped this never-before-seen Polaroid picture of what appears to be a USO above a tornado-shaped waterspout on July 7th, 1988.
So he was looking north towards Gulf Breeze across the Santa Rosa Sound, a distance of about 7,000 feet. He noticed that the water down beneath the object started to get all foamy or something. He could see it dancing around, and all of a sudden this column of water went up and contacted the bottom of it. The picture that he took actually shows that.
Such cases have caused some experts to assert that USOs might possibly use water as a fuel source.
There are those who feel that water is essential for the fusion process.
There are a lot of cases where UFOs hover over reservoirs and small bodies of water, not only large bodies of water. It does seem to be some evidence that they can use water to help their craft in some way.
They may use water as a fuel. When these cases where they talk about objects hovering over the water and seeming to suck water up in, certainly sounds like they need a big drink or something to keep going.
Modern scientific theories abound about how USOs develop the ability to propel themselves through water with great efficiency. Researchers envision everything from massive jet-like propulsion systems to frictionless bubbles that cocoon the objects.
So the engines wouldn't be engines as you and I would imagine engines. They would be generators, generating a magnetic force, creating a magnetic envelope around the craft that repels the Earth's natural magnetism, hence allowing them to accelerate, decelerate, climb, fall, and navigate through the water.
By exerting forces at the surrounding fluid, seawater, nice electrically conducting fluid. You can control the drag, you can control the flow, the speed, the lift. You can get around all the problems of high-speed motion under the water. A magneto-aerodynamic system would work similar to the electromagnetic submarine that was successfully tested.
An electromagnetic submarine was in fact built and tested by the University of California, Santa Barbara in the mid-1960s. It took advantage of saltwater's natural ability to conduct electricity.
The first successful test of an electromagnetic propulsion system was conducted on Earth in 1966, when this electromagnetic submarine was first demonstrated. This electromagnetic submarine moves through the water as a result of electromagnetic forces. It has absolutely no moving parts.
The principle here is that seawater is an electrically conducting fluid. You push against the seawater by Newton's laws, elementary physics, it pushes back, and off you go.
Is it possible that USOs take advantage of this natural capability of our oceans to reach supersonic speed?
Water is a great magnetic conduit. In fact, if they were traveling using a process called diamagnetism, which is a weak repellent force, then water would enhance that force, which would explain why these craft are able to navigate in water so well.
One researcher theorizes that USOs might move rapidly through the water and avoid catastrophic damage using the same principles as a common light bulb.
UFO is the filament in this particular case, and the bulb is the field, and that protects the UFO. It keeps the water from coming onto it when it goes in. They move it, though, and it never touches the UFO.
And that can be achieved by creating so-called supercavitating bubble around the whole object. In that way, whole object travels together with a bubble of water vapor.
Marco Princivac is a professor of mechanical engineering at the University of California, Riverside. He devised an experiment for the History Channel demonstrating the physics behind possible supersonic movement through the water.
Basically, the only thing that you can play with is a shape of a vehicle. And it will deviate from standard shapes of a submarine.
To demonstrate how different shapes can produce the conditions for supersonic underwater travel, Princivac and his team force an underwater current along with green dye and high-powered lasers around different submersed objects.
So if we have something called a streamlined body, we see that fluid flows undisturbedly around that body.
This red streamlined object represents the perfect shape for a fast-moving underwater vessel. In direct contrast, the cube that is tested creates massive resistance all around the object.
A good shape for an underwater supercavitating vehicle would be something similar to a return capsule of Soyuz or other space missions.
The laws of earthly physics change dramatically underwater. Propelling an oceanic vehicle to supersonic speeds requires an amount of power greater than what man has currently invented.
A vehicle that has a 5-foot diameter, and we want to go at the speed.
UFOs and these other videos that we get right here at Third Phase Moon, they're unconventional. DARPA keeps it conventional, but still there's that edge. Is anybody on the, what do you think about
I've
that?
actually worked on a few DARPA projects, and usually they're cutting edge. The stuff that I was doing was semiconductor stuff. Typically, always trying to push the envelope, and that's typical with DARPA projects. Is they're always trying to push the envelope of whatever particular technology. So
DARPA, I think what they're doing is reverse engineering. Obviously, I think it's a given. Obviously, we've had craft since at least 1936. Hitler had. We've had them since 1942, the Cape Girardeau incident in Missouri. Unless you want to go back to the 1896 case in Aurora, Texas. But obviously to say that we have had ET craft and have not reverse engineered them would be very stupid.
Well, that's, if you want to look for the ET connection, if you look at Corso's book, The Day After Roswell, he says that the technologies that were released were semiconductors, night vision, and lasers. Right, exactly. There's a trifecta.
Kevlar too.
Well, Kevlar, yeah, but from my standpoint, I happened to be in the optics industry, which dealt with semiconductors, lasers, and night vision. So that was kind of, you know.
And he seeded that technology into what we're using
and
right
DARPA,
now.
of course, feeds it. They basically do the they fund the high tech, the state of the art stuff, and then that all filters down.
Mr. Kelly, let me ask you. So you say yourself you worked on the DARPA project?
I worked on when I was in the optics industry. You know, making parts for photolithography systems and stuff like that, microphotolithography, semiconductors, servicing the semiconductor industry. Several projects that came through there over the years were DARPA, but typically, I can tell you exactly what they were. They had to do with printing the mask of the semiconductors. In other words, the master patterns for the photo masks. And
let me ask you, Mr. Lee, thanks for coming back on Third Phase Moon. There was a lot of comments on the Illuminati came forward, and you gave a lot of information. People were really interested in your insight. But when the annual budget claimed by Wikipedia is that it's $1 billion and there's only 240 employees, that's accurate?
Blake, let me jump in for that. I got to tell you, is obviously what's written as the budget is not the real budget. And I know this for a fact because this SEAL, who's not into conspiracies or anything at all, he was just a normal Navy SEAL who was in Vietnam from 66 to 69. And then he did 2 mercenary missions. And he said every single mission during the SEALs and the mercenaries after came from the CIA. Well, both mercenary missions were to guard giant cargo ships full of coke, 2 coming to the U.S., 1 from Peru, 1 from Colombia.
But that's not DARPA, John.
But that's black ops.
A lot of people...
That's funding black ops, though.
Well, see, but that's another thing. I was involved in that, too. You know, but the DARPA thing is different. DARPA really does go out to industry in the form of grants and contracts to make advanced stuff and assemble advanced stuff. And so it's very much a technical construction arm of the, and if you will, a de-engineering farm too, no doubt. Certainly, obviously, they were de-engineering equipment, and that's why they were able to direct this. They knew what to build. They could write these specifications, advanced specifications, because they knew what direction they were trying to head with this stuff. So, but
well, that's exactly, you hit it right on the button, because in 1958 they originally established DARPA as their original mission to prevent surprise, like a launch from a Sputnik, or Soviets had beaten us to the States, but now they're also creating this to surprise our enemies, and this keeps changing. They actually changed their name from ARPA to DARPA. When you were working there, was it ARPA or DARPA?
Okay, well, that's what you're talking about. That's the predecessor to the internet, where they had the ARPANET and the DARPANET. But gosh, what was I going to say? The thing about this, it's a little bit different, you know, the technology stuff. I'm sorry, I kind of...
Well, Maxwell on DARPA. Maxwell, I want to ask you on DARPA and also HARP, because you mentioned about the ley lines of the Earth, and there seems to be a natural energy why there's cities at certain places, and 33 degrees and all the rest of that. I know you know about that kind of stuff. So what's your take on both DARPA and HARP and the ley lines? Go ahead.
John Bearden and Dr. Bob Beck were talking about ELF, the extreme low frequency, and the woodpecker effect coming out of Russia. Woodpecker is still, I guess, in operation. You hear it on shortwave. And so the whole concept of using frequencies and high technology, what they call over-the-horizon radar, to create earthquakes, to create hurricanes and volcanoes down, I don't know. There's all kinds of high technology that's been known for many years. I mean, Tesla was doing that kind of stuff a long time ago. And so the guy you really want to listen to on that kind of stuff is Colonel Tom Bearden. You can find him on the web and just listen to some of the stuff he's talking about DARPA, but he's talking about the occult and heavy-duty stuff that this government and other governments around the world are actually doing. And I would throw in something that you might want to look up. It's called the woodpecker. A lot of people may not know what I'm talking about, but it's a very interesting subject. Just look up woodpecker effect, and you will see that both Russia and America have been using this kind of high technology ELF, extreme low frequency, to cause people to go crazy, causing people to get angry, causing people to become confused electrically. So all of this stuff has been known, I mean, I'm sure it was enforced as far back as maybe the 40s and 50s, but it started to come out in the 70s. This high technology using electronics to confuse people, to cause strange cloud formations, and of course that brings in HAARP. So all of this stuff is very legitimate. It's very, very real, but there's a lot of good stuff out there now, a lot of good information on it now that wasn't there back in the 70s when we were originally talking about it.
Look into Bob Beck, guys.
Yeah.
Congress sent Bob Beck to Russia to investigate the woodpecker, and he basically smuggled some gear in there that allowed him to analyze the frequency and figure out what was going on.
And he was a dear friend of mine for many, many years.
Yeah. He was a friend of mine too, George.
Yeah.
He used to hang out at my shop and buy lasers for me to use as pointers at his lectures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved him. He was a wonderful, wonderful man.
He always wanted the most powerful laser. You know, it had to be twice as powerful as what anybody else had.
They keep changing their story and their name. If you've worked for ARPA or DARPA, we'd like to interview you on Third Phase of the Moon and find out what's going on behind the scenes. Everybody keep your eyes in the sky, and if you captured anything amazing, send it to Third Phase of the Moon via Skype or Facebook. My name's Blake Cousins. We'll see you.
Wow, look at it light that up. Wow.
Welcome back to Third Phase of the Moon. My name's Blake Cousins, and we're going over breaking news that we just released on YouTube Third Phase of the Moon. We're just about to hit 100 million views on our YouTube channel alone. Everybody subscribe to get the latest breaking news about UFOs from around the world. I just wanted to go over an incredible video just in tonight. We're going to discuss it with Dr. J. Andy Elias and former FBI agent Ben Hansen. He went over this video that we're looking at right now. Incredible footage captured from within a plane of what looks to be mysterious lights below. Dr. J, I wanted to get your opinion first of what you thought of this video just into Third Phase.
You know, I honestly, the genuineness of the people on board that were witnessing this craft of the person recording, clearly you could tell because it's a vertical thing, a vertical shot. It's from an iPhone. But obviously, as Ben Hansen said earlier, they could have won an Academy Award. They definitely saw something out there. I don't think it's CGI. It's definitely in the air.
Well, the first thing that I noticed with this is it caught my attention that the light was moving a little bit. It didn't look like it was in conjunction with the camera shake, and I thought, well, this could be CGI, computer generated imaging that is showing what we call an error in tracking. It's when you animate something, you have to anchor it to the rest of the objects or the background in the film. And I was thinking that this object wasn't tracking correctly at first. But the more I looked at this, I realized this didn't appear to be the issue. In fact, it looks as if the light and the way that it wobbles a tiny bit in the first of the 3 videos probably is only due to something we call shutter roll. This is a rolling shutter effect with the CMOS sensors in a lot of cameras. And what ends up happening is sort of a blurring effect, or it looks like the image is wobbling. So the reactions of the people seem pretty genuine to me. It actually take a pretty professional job to fake reactions like this that are so spontaneous. They seem appropriate with the background of the chatter and everything you're hearing on the plane. It wasn't over dramatized. They didn't act as if they're reading from a script. It sounded very legitimate and real to me. So my opinion is that whatever's captured in this video most likely is happening in camera.
It's going towards it. Whoa! Oh man, look at that! Do you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're looking at the videos, and now we're about to enhance it and zoom it in about 2,000% and put some brightness contrast to this, so we could even get a better look at these videos that came in. And there's some new information about what was going on in regards to this, and we can all hear people's reactions in real time. This is something incredible, but they were on their way from a business trip from Vegas to Chicago, and they're thinking this is closer to Vegas. So, and it was shot in what was it, March or May 9th, 2013. So there's old UFO videos out there. He said he couldn't share it with Third Phase of Moon because he had a hard time editing these 3 clips together and zooming in on the UFO. And that's what we do here. What we do here at Third Phase of Moon is analyze these videos. What do you think of looking at the trifecta, John? Like, you see it from one light and then it transforms into a triangle formation.
You know, that's definitely not the first of a UFO doing that. As people have seen, and many times they will see one light all of a sudden turn into 3 or 5. They will see one ball or even a cylinder turn into a triangle. So it's not uncommon that they are actually shape-shifting. The other possibility is that they were seeing it as it's coming in through one dimension, possibly as one light, and then as it got closer it turned into 3. Or the other option is it really was 3 objects that came in together, because there are cases in the past, Blake, that did have multiple UFOs stacked together that came forward and then released to multiple.
Wow, look at it light that up. Wow.
It appears to be maybe a half an hour of time. We're looking at something where the sun is probably just set beforehand. In the third video, it's actually quite dark. I wouldn't be surprised if this happened over about a half an hour. In the last videos, though, what you'll see is part of the reflection of the inside of the plane. So the other passengers, you're kind of seeing them, you know, backlit and reflecting. So there is some of that, but the object and the light is consistent throughout all the 3 videos. That there's something illuminated. It makes me believe that this is actually happening down beneath and outside of the plane, not an artifact of camera reflection or something inside. Plus you have the witnesses who are corroborating. We're led to believe probably someone in the row behind them or in front of them is also seeing the same thing, which, you know, angles of camera flares and things like that just wouldn't match up. Weather phenomena, I don't think so. The only thing I could think of, it was a pretty clear day. It didn't look like there was much haze at all. And I don't think that anything such as ball lightning or a weather phenomenon that would be very rare, you know, would continue, especially for such a great amount of time as what we're seeing over several minutes. And for this thing to kind of undulate, it looks like a snake with a trail of light following behind it, which is very, very strange. So it's a great video. It really is. To me, I'm going to have to put this in the box of I have no clue. This doesn't fit typical UFO description of solid object, of triangular object. It doesn't even fit the description of light anomalies that we're familiar with.
For everybody out there who was on that flight, contact Third Phase of Moon. Whether you were a witness that just heard people saying they saw something, or you were one of the people actually looking out the window, contact Blake Cousins in Third Phase of Moon.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Ben, for joining us right here, going over this incredible breaking news. Everybody look at the videos. We've contrasted it, again, zoomed in, listened to the reactions, and if anybody has old footage, you know, whether it goes back to the 60s, Super 8, high VHS, super VHS. We want to go over it, look at it, zoom in on it, because I know there's an archive of UFOs still waiting to be seen and shared to the world. Everybody keep your eyes on the skies. My name is Blake Cousins. We'll see you again next time.
Wow, look at it light that up. Wow.
There they go.
Blake Cousins here, Third Phase Moon, with breaking news. Ed is in contact with us right now. He's just shared incredible video of what looks to be a star ship, a beam ship of some sort, shooting vertically in the night sky. Ed's with us right now. His videos are going viral. The people have shared his videos, asking the big questions. They're all over the internet. Ed's footage over the past couple months have been so, exciting in the UFO world right now. People are amazed. Ed, tell me, what's the circumstance behind this video? And welcome back to Third Phase.
Yeah, Blake, thanks for having me back. This was shot in 1987, right after I was getting off the ship. It was my first time on the ship with Voss.
Okay, Ed, explain, let's backpedal a little bit, because I want to concentrate on this video that we're looking at, and we're zooming in, we're analyzing these photos, and we're not seeing any thing that could say that this is a hoax of any kind. Ed, let me ask you right now, is this a hoax? Because people just want to know this straight up, and we'll move along.
There they go. No, this is authentic footage that I shot after being on the ship for the first time. It delivered me back within feet of my truck. I went back to my truck, grabbed my camera, and I had to backpedal to get some footage before it left.
All right, Ed, we got to get these questions, the hardcore ones, out of the way first. Now let's get into detail. This incredible video we're looking at, we're going to share it to the world. Everybody's going to make up their own mind and decide what's going on here. Okay, Ed, so you were aboard the ship. This video right now is as they were taking off and leaving, and you say you were backpedaling, getting the shot. What happened before this on board this ship?
Blake, this was my first time on the ship, and I had seen this ship many times. I think I've sent you other video footage of the ship that I ended up going on with, and the contact I had identified himself as Voss through telepathic communication. There was no voice. And this was my first time on the ship. And right after I got delivered back through this same beam of light that you see the ship departing with, I was able to get back to my truck and shoot this footage.
We're looking at this footage. You know, it takes off right behind the tree. What's the size of this craft?
This ship was about the size of a small house. It was probably about 80 feet to 120 feet in length, and the height of it was maybe 2/3 of that. But the beam of light, the light coming off this, is something that the video captured, but it was different in person.
Did this make any sound? It seems like it's almost a rocket booster, a thrust of some sort, rocket engineered.
No sound at all, Blake. It didn't make any sound. There was no sound at all, Blake.
You know, we're talking right before you shared this video, that you're saying that this isn't you have somebody in your family that...
I mentioned that my uncle was a lieutenant in the Air Force during World War II. He was the one that I first saw an unidentified flying object with. It happened when I was a young boy, and it happened more than once, but it happened with my uncle. And after my uncle died at a young age, he was only 66 when he died, I continued to have these visitations, and I continue to have them today. I think the only reason why I have ever had contacts with UFOs and extraterrestrial intelligence is because of my uncle. And it makes me think of Voss, because it's the same kind of telepathic communication that happened with my uncle and I. There were a lot of things left unsaid, but that were clearly understood.
Ed, a few days ago, we posted this incredible video of a classic metallic flying saucer, and it doesn't get much better than this. I didn't get your comments of what the circumstance behind that was, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the video. You see apparitions flying by. It almost looks like something's jettisoning out of the UFO. what was going on in this shot right here?
Yeah, Blake, I just dug these up, and this was a great discovery to make again. This came in about 1986. It might have been as early as 1984. There's two of these here, and they're different. They look similar, but they're actually different craft. But they are in the same area of the country. I was in South Carolina at that time, and I spoke of my uncle and my introduction to these craft through him. That was my first experience, and this is experience that I had before. And what I'm coming up with is some interesting stuff, but as I told you the first time we spoke, this is a part of my life, but it's not the only part of my life. And I know I carried a camera on that ship, but I also know that there's a different force of energy working there. So I'll look in my archives and see what I might be able to discover for you. But it's a different environment, one where our alternating current is not functioning. I'll see what I can come up with. As I find this is enjoyable for me. I'm having a good time looking at these old archives and digging the stuff up. And as I said before, this is just a part of my life, like there's another part of my life. You know, when I first experienced the UFO with my uncle, it was not long after Neil Armstrong had first walked on the moon. And, you know, this just seemed normal to me when I had this experience with my uncle. But what's happened since that time has been very slow. And that's okay, because this is just another part of my life. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, we all heard last week about ex-President Clinton coming on the news and saying, you know, the aliens are coming. I mean, this is common knowledge. The aliens are already here.
How does that make you feel, Ed, that, you know, these ETs are making contact with you, and the president of the United States can't even prove that ET exists, and, you know, Area 51 once held the bodies crashed from Roswell, and, you know, they have the alien technology, and presidents can't even be involved with that, and you're making contact with them.
Well, Blake, at the risk of sounding arrogant, I'll just tell you, I've had these experiences, maybe we're counting 60 experiences I've had, visitations, being on alien craft, seeing these objects, communicating with Voss, my history. So I don't look at it in terms of the way other skeptics might look. And I truly believe that this is much bigger than any Area 51 or whatever happened with the president. This is much bigger than that kind of detail. They brought me on the ship with Voss, escorting me into another room where they presented to me an image that I saw. I can only describe it as being a hologram, where this image was floating in free space, and this image was me, and it was who I was. That's what they were communicating to me telepathically. They were saying to me that this is you, and this definition of me through this hologram image that was like a DNA chain, a mathematical formula of my genotype, and what they were communicating to me was that this was in compliance of what they wanted to be. This was welcoming to them. This was friendly to them. This was what they wanted, and this was positive, and they were almost congratulating me for who I was.
We want the details, Ed, and these photos and videos that you continuously submit. We're looking forward to you keep digging into your archives and sharing what it is. You have Super 8s. You need help to recover some film. We'd love to do that. Ed, thanks again for joining us at Third Phase Moon. You keep in touch.
It's my pleasure, Blake. I appreciate Third Phase of the Moon and your forum for me to share my archives with, and I'll keep looking to see what I have. Maybe I have something that you're interested in and we can share with other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. And wow, we just wanted to do it like we do it at Third Phase of the Moon. Share it in real time, liquid information. It's like a faucet of water, continuously streaming live to the people around the world. Everybody keep your eyes on the skies. And if you've captured anything amazing in regards to the UFO phenomenon, submit it to Third Phase via Skype or Facebook. My name's Blake Cousins. We'll see you again next time.
There they go. There they go. That's it. See you, Voss.
By popular demand, we are pleased to announce the Third Phase of Moon album is finally featured on iTunes. With all your favorite songs and themes you hear on the top UFO channel on YouTube, Third Phase of Moon. Out of This World soundtracks composed by master artist Paul Barrett. With 12 remastered and extended cuts to enjoy. Download them now, exclusive on iTunes. Click the link in the description below. Now listen for yourself, heard by millions around the world, Paul Barrett's album, Third Phase of Moon. Phase of Moon. Welcome back to Third Phase of Moon. My name's Blake Cousins, and in this week's episode, we're going over 2 incredible videos submitted to us right here at Third Phase. Now let's get to it. Now for our first video, shot from Austin, Texas by Jason, who describes this incredible object as a sight to behold. Notice the light blinking underneath the craft. This isn't no FAA regulated lights. What is this object?
There it goes behind them trees. Look at that. No way a UFO would need landing lights. I wish this thing would focus in a little better. There he goes behind the trees.
Unidentified flying object. Unidentified.
Hello.
Unidentified flying object.
just going into that light. Hard to see. Still see it going behind them trees. It's right over downtown Austin, Texas. And I can't see it anymore. Still see it on film though. It's gone though, I can't see it at all. Look at how it lights up right there. What do you think that could be?
We want to thank Jason all the way from Austin, Texas for submitting his incredible video to us right here at Third Phase of Moon. Now for our second video, we received a call from Amanda all the way from Michigan while we're live on the radio show, and she submitted this incredible film. Take a look at it.
Unidentified flying object.
When I first received the video, I didn't notice and realize what Amanda was explaining to me on the radio was that there was a massive skyscraper-sized UFO, triangular in shape, hovering over this mansion. Could this be a TR-3B? A reverse-engineered alien military aircraft? You decide.
Unidentified flying object. Unidentified flying object. Unidentified flying object.
I'm recording now, because what I thought I was taking a video before, and I think I am right now, but yeah, I think I am. It's right above me. It's hard to tell how high it is. No. I'll show you the video, because right now I am taking a video. Oh my god, it's gonna be on the news. It has to be. Somebody else has to be seeing this. I'm in Novi, like in my brother's neighborhood. It's weird because, yeah. Let me get another. I wish you were here. You would be freaking out. Yeah, I'm taking good footage now because there's a perspective, like there's a house in perspective, and now it's kind of going far away now. Oh, it's kind of leaving. It's going east. Oh my, they have to know I'm here. Oh my God. I'm seeing my first UFO. Like, no, 100%. There's no way, unless somebody has a remote controlled thing, which there's no, because I still see it. It's like, oh my God.
What are these strange lights appearing over the planet Earth? Have your cameras ready because we're standing by right here at Third Phase of Moon. Submit them to us via Skype or Facebook. My name's Blake Cousins, and we'll see you again next time. By popular demand, we are pleased to announce the Third Phase of Moon album is finally featured on iTunes. With all your favorite songs and themes you hear on the top UFO channel on YouTube, Third Phase of Moon. Out of This World soundtracks composed by master artist Paul Barrett. With 12 remastered and extended cuts to enjoy. Download them now, exclusive on iTunes. Click the link in the description below. Now listen for yourself, heard by millions around the world, Paul Barrett's album, Third Phase of Moon.